Understanding the interface of MySQL Workbench. So in this lesson, we're going to discuss the features of MySQL Workbench. And the first feature is the menu bar. Here we have the various menus, which include the file menu, the edit, the view, and so on. So when you click on the file menu, we can see some of the operations that we can perform, which include creating a new model or a new query tab. We can choose to open an SQL script and run the script. We can choose to save a script. So here are some of the operations that we can perform on the file menu. After this menu bar, we have these icons that gives us quick access to perform some operation. Like for example, this gives us the access to create a new SQL tab. Just like what we have here, the query 1 tab, we can create a new query tab just by clicking on this icon. We can choose to create a new schema or a new database by using this icon. We can choose to create a new table by clicking on this icon. So on this quick menu, we have tools that gives us quick access to some operations that we can perform on the workbench. Here we have our navigation panel, which contains two tabs, the schema tab and the administration tab. The administration tabs gives us access to perform some admin operations, which include creating users and assigning privileges to users. We can choose to shut down our connection or start up a connection. We can choose to look at the performance report of our database. So with this administration tab, we can perform some administrative roles on our database. And then we have the schema tab, which is our database. And on this schema tab, we have three databases. When you install a new MySQL Workbench, you will only see one database called the SIS database. So these two databases, the restaurant database and the stolen vehicle database, was created by me. So the schema tab gives us access to the database that we have on this workbench. So by clicking on any of the database, we can see the database objects, which include the table, the view, the stored procedures, and the function. Next on our feature is the query tab. So we have our query 1 tab. So here is where we write our SQL query and execute them. So with this icon here, we have this icon which we use to execute any statement under the keyboard, and this icon is used to execute the selected portion of our SQL script. So we'll be making use of these two icons. More especially this icon, we'll be using it to run our query. So here is where we write our query. And next on our feature is the action output. The action output gives us a summary of the action that we performed, and if our actions were successfully or if there were error in our action. So we use this action output basically to do a debugging, to debug our SQL queries. So the next feature that we want to look at is what we call the result grid. To be able to see the result grid, I'm going to run an SQL query, and this query I want to select the database called the restaurant database. So I will use the SQL statement called use to specify that I want to use the restaurant database. So with this statement, use restaurant database, I will be specifying that I want to work with this database. So to execute this statement, I need to click on this icon. We say execute the statement under the keyboard cursor. So by clicking on it, when we take a look at the action output, we can see a green mark ticked, which indicates that this action was executed successfully. So this is the summary of the action that we performed. The action we performed was we specified that we want to use the restaurant database, and so we have the summary here with a green tick indicating it was successfully executed. And here we have the duration that it took to execute this action, which is about 15 milliseconds. We want to see our result grid. So to do that, I will run another statement which is going to show me the table that are in this database. So I will use this statement show tables. So this statement show tables will show the tables that are in this database. So let's execute the statement. So here is the next feature that we want to discuss, the result grid. So the result grid gives us the result of our action. So in our database, we have two tables, the menu item and the other details. So with this, we have been able to see the various features that we have in our MySQL Workbench.